All right, let's talk. This is a messy reality of midlife, trying to work out what's going on while setting up a company, while parenting, while being involved with elderly parents. Midlife's particularly hard because, well, first of all, what is midlife? It could be anything. Midlife, I always used to think of people being old. I still think of 50 years olds as quite old people. I am 47, by the way, so I'm nearly 50. In midlife, it's really hard because you get comfortable. You probably have a more stressful job, a more senior job, but you're in that ladder, pyramid, whatever. Your job's more senior. You're expected to be better at it, deliver stuff constantly. You're probably, for most of us, more sedentary than you were before. And you've got these other compounding factors. Most of us are more resistant to insulin, which means we are storing and handling energy differently. All of us are fighting something called sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle. But that's natural stuff. The other stuff that happens is your kids get older, have different needs. You know, whether you've got 2-year-old kids or 15-year-old kids, they have really, really different needs, but they still need stuff from you all the time if you have kids. If you don't have kids, you still have other challenges. And then you might have elderly parents, or you might have both, and that's a really difficult position to be in. I'm kind of starting to accept that I'm in midlife. Not on my own, it's because I've got this great community around me. My community is flipping awesome, right? That they are so realistic, pragmatic, and I've seen how good they can be at changing things. And they've really inspired me to admit that I'm in midlife. So that's what I'm doing for myself now. I'm doing like a midlife makeover. Slowly, small habits, small changes, but I just want to get myself in order. And I mean, everything from the way I eat, to the way I fit exercise into my day, to the way I organize things in my house. I feel like everything's been in short, sharp bursts, which is what life does to you a lot of the time. You live in sprints. I remember when my twins were very, very young, they demanded so much energy and attention. And then they didn't for a little bit. And then they did again for a little bit. And then they didn't. And it just kind of comes in spurts, all this work that you need to do. And we put off doing anything to the house while the twins were small. But now suddenly bits of the house are falling apart and falling on my head. So now I'm having to do that. So let me show you how I'm admitting to midlife being the part of my life I'm in, accepting it gracefully, and now focusing on building solid habits I can keep for life, where I get past dieting and yo-yos and my weight, or get past buying loads of crap and then throwing loads of crap out and going through this cycle of ownership of stuff. And I change and adapt my lifestyle in an optimal way, just by focusing on it. That's what I'm doing. It's not that I'm going to start any new plan, go nuts. I'm going to just focus on optimizing myself, mind, my body, my environment, my lifestyle. And that's the journey I want you to join me on. And I'd love to hear from you about what you're doing at this age, at this stage rather. It's not an age, it's a stage. I have no idea what my children are.
I'm not one of your child.
What do you think of Salisbury?
Why are you asking me? I live in Salisbury.
You don't live in Salisbury. I'm glad you don't live in Salisbury because you live in my house.
I don't live in your house. I never even seen you.
This is where I grew up. I think my house is over there. In fact, this is where I grew up, on a road called Wilton Road. It was actually a takeaway, an Indian takeaway, and a spice shop. It was the only place you could buy things like coriander from in the 80s for absolutely miles. And I grew up, my bedroom backed onto the shop a bit. Here we are in Mum and Dad's house, and that is my dad's Zimmer frame. My father, who is, he's now 94 years old, is one of the inspirations for the work that I actually do here, not necessarily in a good way. That was in 1978.
You were born in 1978.
Yeah, a little baby.
Is that you?
That's still why you can tell by the straight hair.
He looks so cute.
Does he look cute?
He's rated. In that picture, he looks like someone from.
That's Amir. That's Big Sassa. So I guess I first met my father when he was a little bit older than me. That's a picture of him before I came along. That's not me. That's mid-70s. Now, I always remember him as an old guy because I was told he was an old guy. Now he actually is an old guy. He's 94 and he's got quite severe dementia, which is really quite sad. That's the first time I've heard my father say that he doesn't actually know who I am. I mean, he's met my daughter several times before. It's sad. And this is something that I don't want my daughter to experience. So it's kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is the kind of week it's been. The bathroom ceiling fell in, and it was a ceiling covering up a ceiling, concealing some kind of space elephant, which has a silver trunk. So in amongst trying to actually do my work and launch a podcast and build a studio, I've been out trying to turn, well, emergency plumber and buying plasterboard that I've never put a ceiling up before, but it's just such a pain getting the right kind of workmen nowadays. You have to audition 5 of them, 3 of them turn up. So I've just decided somehow I'm going to do it myself. So aside from trying to fix my ceiling problems, what I am trying to do is use the exercise snacks approach to actually get some exercise done, because it's really, really hard at the moment with so much to do. I do actually have a Peloton that I don't use it for the classes very much at the moment. What I use it for is exercise snacks. First thing in the morning, when I wake up, the kids are in bed, I will get on that and I will sit on it for 20 minutes or so at about 35% resistance. And I'm not using the classes. What I'm using, there's a mode on it called Just Ride. So you can do this with any exercise bike, it doesn't have to be one of these posh ones. And the magic thing I've actually got is a little tray, which is made of Perspex, really dirty, thanks sunshine. This thing just clips in, and what happens is when you clip this thing in, it becomes a computer table. So I'm using the Peloton like a desk, and I'll just sit there and I'll go through plans for the day, usually scripts. I just generally tend to write my first short article for the day in that time. 3 years ago, I couldn't walk up the stairs in my house, which is only 3 flights, not big flights, small ones. But I could walk up them, I'd get out of breath. I'm a little out of breath now because I've just been deadlifting. But this was me, but worse, when I actually got to the top of my stairs. I'd sit down, I'd be spent, and I'd go up there to the loft to work. What actually changed for me wasn't going to the gym, going to a personal trainer, but was this approach of exercise snacks. A walk after every meal at the right time. So when you've eaten a meal, generally, depending on what you've eaten, your blood glucose, your energy is starting to rise a little bit. And as your body is breaking food down to molecules, as that process happens, you've got a chance to give it a little direction in what to do with those molecules. So you can send glucose molecules to your muscles by moving the muscles around. You've got a window of probably about an hour, and that happens 20 minutes or so after you've eaten your meal, it starts to break down. So that's one of the big things that I've learned to do. And then other things tend to be habitually, I'll do squats now while I am making coffee in the morning. So while the coffee boils, I taught myself to do as many squats as it takes for the coffee to boil. And then eventually I added weights to these. Sometimes I will do a set of press-ups when I get up from the desk. And that is one of the things that I have really accidentally got in the habit of not doing, getting up from the desk, because you set your own company up and try and fit it all into parenting, and you're at work all the time. It's crazy. And I'm not one of those people that wants to sit in front of my kids with a laptop. So I try and keep work time to myself. I don't think you need an hour in the gym. And I am a member of a gym. I'm not often there for an hour because I've learned to exercise in a different way. I tend to do high intensity exercise for short bursts, and then I do weight training at the gym, and that's what I use it for. The rest of the exercise, what I used to do on things like a long-winded treadmill or a spin class, I try and get in through walking now, which is really quite useful. I think what you have to do is you have to have some kind of focused challenge that you're presenting your body. So that's why I like weightlifting, because you can actually, when I say I like weightlifting, I don't really like weightlifting. I don't enjoy the process of weightlifting. I enjoy the rewards of weightlifting. So I always stayed away from it until I was in my 40s. And then I realized that actually, if you track the numbers, watching the numbers go up is really, really satisfying. It's like a game. And you do this very incrementally. You don't like put 10 kilograms on at a time. But in a matter of weeks, you can gain a load of strength, and you can still gain muscle in your 40s, 50s, way beyond. So if you haven't tried it, I do recommend it. But also you can do a lot in these little exercise snacks. So I'm just getting back into the habit. I'll kind of work out exactly some kind of routine, because I also do like a routine, because I'm so, I don't know, I get easily distracted by everything in the world. So routines and checklists for me really keep me grounded. So today I'm going to try and make sure I get a walk in, which is hard. I've just rushed out of work. I'm going to pick up the blushing bride because we are heading down to our wedding venue for a tasting, where we're going to get to taste some of the foods that they're going to prepare for our wedding. She's a vegetarian, and that makes it a little bit more of a challenge than it does for me, because something that I've learned from living with her for many years is how hard it is to be a vegetarian and eat in restaurants. Because restaurants don't prepare food according to nutrition guidelines where they want to nourish you. They want you to have a good time. They want you to come back, right? So they want things to be tasty, interesting, etc. And what I've learned from Lucy is that she needs to often order a couple of things from the starter menu and something from the sides menu. She always combines things to actually get what she wants and to get the nutrition that she needs, rather than necessarily order something that is the vegetarian dish that is on offer. So while I was going through changing the way I eat and learning to eat better, I certainly learned a lot from her, because in the olden days, I would have just ordered a starter as a starter and a main course and a main course, and never shall you break that rule. But nowadays, I'm always that fussy guy, or kind of fussy guy in a restaurant. Well, sod it, you're in a restaurant, you're paying people, you should be a bit fussy. But I'm always asking for either adaptations, such as just take the big old bun off my burger, please, because I won't eat it, I'll throw it away. Or just doing what Lucy the vegetarian does, which is I'm going to have 2 starters instead of my main course, please, or 2 side dishes. And also, bulking up your meal with side dish vegetables is just a thing that healthy people do that it took years for me to understand. So we're going to check out what the food is. where it's a wedding venue. We can't really obsess about how much protein and fat and carbohydrate is in something. But I just thought it was an interesting thing. It's interesting that Lucy's first comment, she does not work in the same field as me, but her first comment was, it's very hard to look through this menu and find any decent protein options. So wedding tastings are just, it's part of the ceremony. What are they going to do? Change something based on what I asked them to do? So here we are at the country house hotel that we've chosen for our wedding. It's a wonderful place with humongous grounds, which means the kids can play outside, hopefully, because it's late spring. Hopefully we'll get to spend a lot of time outside. And we spent about 2 hours at this tasting, eating all sorts of food. Recording my food like a wanker, that's what I'm going to do nowadays. Yeah, I'm afraid that's what this job has foisted upon me. So there was a fair amount of potato and sugary stuff in my food and a humongous chunk of tiramisu. After the tasting, I had to rush up to London for an event where I was going to a women's health podcast recording, and my glucose crashed. So here you can see it on my phone. The food that I had caused quite a big spike for me. I don't normally have blood sugar spikes. And then you can see where insulin has almost instantly started its work. And you can see that double kind of spike, which is insulin pushing my glucose down by clearing sugar out of my blood. But what's happened on the train is I actually fell asleep. You can see exactly where I fell asleep. That massive drop. I couldn't fight the urge to sleep. I was so tired. And it's from having the feast, eating in a way that I don't normally eat. This is called the blood glucose roller coaster. Anyway, let's ride it to Piccadilly Circus, which is my next stop. I made a real commitment to learn more about women's health this year, so I've come to the middle of London, where it's very, very noisy indeed, and heading into Hearst's office, actually specifically to Women's Health magazine. This is for a live recording of their Just As Well podcast. The special guest that night, hosted by Gemma Atkinson, TV personality, personal trainer, and editor-in-chief of the magazine, Claire Sanderson, were joined by Gabby Allan, who is famous for being on Love Island, but actually, I learned, also was one of the winners of TV show SAS Who Dares Wins, which she really enjoyed, kicking men's asses to come out on top. So I got to meet all the presenters, got to meet Gabby, who was brilliant, and actually learned a fair amount about how difficult it had been for her. Had some quite emotional stories. Gabby and Gemma both had dads who died at an early age, and it's what inspired them to do what they do. So more about that another time. I actually did that thing today where I got off the tube a little bit early because I'm going to walk the final stop. Something that is the advice that we've been given for ages, right? Get off the bus one stop early, park your car further away, get off one tube stop early. And I found when I was at my best, it's not that I would think about doing these things, my body was kind of compelling me to do these things. Take the stairs instead of the escalator. So I really want to get into the zone of being like that again, but I want to make it permanent this time. I think that's what this whole journey for me is coming to, which is, I know all the theory. I don't know all the theory, that's not true. I know plenty of the theory. No expert even knows all the bloody theory. And the theory changes all the time, so scrap that. I know enough of the basics, and the knowledge to action gap is huge for most people. Especially the more you learn, and the more you learn, things change. And I recorded something the other day about how aging isn't just this one gradual declining line. Your cells actually don't just suddenly Sorry, they don't just slowly deteriorate over time like a car getting worn in. It's actually slightly different, and I think I reached one of those aging stages, and just going through this process of having to appear on camera all the time, it's made me notice certain things about myself which I'm not hugely happy about. So I've been fine at the weight I'm at, but it's just other stuff about my appearance, about the way I talk, maybe the way I conduct myself when I'm talking, the way I even articulate my thoughts. It's all a bit different to how I think I remember myself. And I have gone through a process of a period of prolonged stress. A lot of stuff going on. Had the intensive years with the kids, had a really intensive job that got very stressful, and then that falling apart was very stressful, and the process has taken its toll on me. So what I'm doing right now is taking myself through a journey, and you're with me on it, which is to try and become that person that I always wanted to be, which is not a midlife crisis. It's an understanding of who I am now. I really give less of a crap about things I used to care about before. I never used to appear on camera much, and as much as I complain about my co-founder Andrew bullying me onto camera, something that is actually really helping me. So here I am, walking the last stop of my journey, trying not to get my camera robbed in southeast London, but I actually remember enjoying this process. And I know lots of people who do this kind of thing as a habit, and I want to be that guy, really. So I downgraded from a £270 a month gym to a £40 a month gym. Now, that gym has it's got an old tennis player's name attached to it. One thing you notice if you remember there, in the male changing room certainly, there's loads of retired guys drying their balls and buttholes with GHD hairdryers for some reason. I don't know if that's just a privilege that you have when you're at a certain age, but everyone thought it. I was paying 270 quid a month for that view, and it's not like there was much there that I didn't get here. It's honestly cleaner, the vibe is nicer. I came in today without my card, and I've not been here for 6 months. The guy just recognised me and said, yeah, come on in, you're a regular. At the other place, this is Snap Fitness, by the way. At the other place, if I forgot my card once in a year, though I've been going there for absolutely years, like 5 years, I get crap for it. It's crazy. Most people overpay for this optionality that they've never used, especially when it comes to gyms. In fact, the whole business relies on that. The thing with the gym as well is, if you have a little bit of confidence, you've spent a bit of time learning what to do, then it's a lot easier to pay £40 a month and not a ridiculous amount of money, because this place at £40 still has classes, so you can still get your community fitness in. There's yoga here. Same yoga teacher at the expensive tennis place, funnily enough. I'm not sure she'd tell you that in real life, but she's bloody great yoga teacher, and she's right here for the £40 a month. Yoga was one of the things that kept me there spending money. I mean, they got a pool, whatever, I don't go to the pool, but I'll tell you what has happened to me over the years. It's just confidence to understand what I'm doing in the gym, because I've stopped trying to do everything, and I've stopped walking in and being like, oh my days, there's a million different pieces of equipment that I must get around using. That's all I ever used to do in the gym. And then I learned how to actually use weights and do a few different weightlifting techniques that I'm still rubbish at and I'm still concentrating on. And then I wear an energy sensor. When you wear an energy sensor, you spend less time in the gym because you start to realize you can do more productive stuff. So if I was doing half an hour of running after breakfast before, I actually get more of a result knowing when to go for a walk, which is low intensity, which means it's less than 130 beats per minute on my heart rate monitor, which I'm not wearing now. This is one of the things about wearables. You end up with these light scars, which we'll talk about another time. I haven't worn my wearable for a while. Anyway, the way to know if you're doing low intensity exercise over high intensity exercise generally, if you're walking, could you maintain a conversation comfortably, but while you're still pushing yourself? That's the difference generally. And I think the thing about coming to a gym for an hour, the real cost, it's not an hour, add travel, changing, that obligation I had last time I came, because I paid for parking, I just stayed longer, even though I'd finished. I went to the red light sauna, infrared sauna, which was a great experience. It has that for £40 a month, by the way. Snap Fitness is, I don't know how well rated it is. In my book, completely underrated. £40 includes an infrared sauna where you can go and sit, and it's not overcrowded. But an hour gym session is never an hour, so you have to have that other time. I think when you stop performing fitness and start working out what actually works for you and start tracking's so important. Understanding the concept of loading and progressively overloading your system, that's creating stress in a good way, which makes you recover and then get better. That changes so much. I never used to do that. So an hour, it's never an hour, is it? That's what you have to think about. Then it doesn't stop when you get home. You don't just put your gym bag down and pick it up again. You've got to do laundry, my days. So £39 compared to £269. It's cleaner, it's quieter, it's 24-hour, by the way. So I can get here at 5 in the morning, which is a very good time for me, which I couldn't do in the old place. And they do have GHD hairdryers. You're not allowed to dry your balls with them. It's an actual unstated studio rule. So I think knowing what actually moves the needle and represents progress changes what you're willing to pay for it. This is how I record a workout sometimes. So been on the treadmill. There's lots of information that's not connected to my phone. I will just pull Nico out, take a photo of the screen which has got all the stats on it, and Nico, which is an AI machine thing, will just read all the stats, write them to my timeline, keep a record of them, and write them to my profile. Simple as that.
To change his mind, and then he's not listening to us, is he?
I am here. I'm listening to you. I don't know why my colleagues give me so much grief for how I don't like to be in meetings and can't pay attention in them. I always pay attention better when I'm doodling or fiddling with something. I'm one of those kids. And it was a day full of meetings, and I had some great meetings, not these guys. I did have some productive meetings, but the best meeting of the day was I had a podcast interview with an author called Joe Warner. He used to be the editor of Men's Fitness magazine, and he's written a book all about menopause, but specifically targeted at men. So that was a great interview.
Women are suddenly launched into a high stakes game and they don't know the rules. But the male partners are launched into a high stakes game and they don't even know they're playing. And this is where the opportunity, it's a crossroads, right? Either the male partner can understand, support, do everything he can to get you on the same team to get through it. Otherwise, small cracks widen because all of your capacity through perimenopause, most women are operating in their 40s and 50s at 99% capacity anyway. What perimenopause does is it removes the buffer. You just don't have that capacity anymore. And it's so important for male partners to understand that they are in this high stakes game. There's a lot at stake here. But also, you don't need to completely overhaul your life to make a difference. It's actually really, really simple, but it does all start with an appreciation of what's actually going on. And I think the two common scenarios that certainly women said they experienced with their male partners was either head in the sand, hoping it would blow over, which of course it doesn't, because perimenopause can last, the best part of a decade. It's a long time to try and hide it out in your man cave, right? And the other scenario is instantly going into support mode. Instantly going into solutions mode, not support mode. trying to fix something that isn't a problem and can't be fixed. So it's not as though we need to completely overhaul everything. What we need to do is just sort of stop, take a deep breath, and realize the situation we're in, and then approach it with some very simple beginning steps to make sure that you are on the same page and not butting heads the whole time.
I think over time, I have learned that walking is the best form of exercise. But also back in the days when I was a business coach, not doing anything to do with metabolic health. In fact, I was in terrible metabolic state at the time. I was really struggling. But back then, I used to tell people that they should think about having a fake commute, because a commute is a ritual. It's a habit that's kind of enforced on us, or it used to be. But it gets you to do certain things. You have to do a certain bunch of other things in order to commute. You have to make sure you have your Oyster card or travel pass or whatever, or your car keys. You have to make sure there's petrol in the car. You have to make sure that you have got dressed, brushed your teeth on time before you leave the house. And there's the act of actually leaving the house, shutting the door behind you. All becomes ingrained in habit, and having that gives you some kind of separation from your constant drive at home, which, if you're a parent of young kids, or if you have older parents to look after, that's what home is. Home is constant work. There's always stuff to do, right? So a commute can be a really good space for you. The walking pretend commute, because I work from home still, so I'm getting out, walking to the gym, and today I managed to spend half an hour or so in the gym, and then I'll walk home again. So I think that walking bit is important, but I think just getting out of the house is something I haven't been able to do. So I'm trying to force a routine back up on myself, because I just cope better with life when there's a routine. And I always say, if you're looking after people, you got to look after yourself first. So that's what my new fake commute is about. Just get out for a walk, get out into the sunlight. Light's very important. There's more of it now that it's nearly April. It's about to be the Easter holidays. So I am going to have my kids with me constantly for a while. And I'll be solo parenting for a bit, so it means that they're going to be dragged out on my fake commutes, which means actually they'll probably be a lot more fun after we get over the initial whining of, do I have to go out this early? So, right, listen. So first of all, sorry for not turning up.
I've come
again,
to expect it. It's fine.
Yeah, not so good. But the clocks go back. This was the thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and I wanted to
go forwards. Yeah.
Fucking hell! This is why I need to talk to you. The clocks go forward. I did know that.
Spring forwards, fall back.
There we go. So this time, they're springing forward at the weekend. Like 2:00 Sunday morning. Yeah. Becomes 3:00 Sunday morning.
Yes.
So I lose an hour of sleep.
Yes.
And everybody loses an hour of sleep. What is your advice about this? I wanted to do a video about it, but I think you're doing it right now. What's your advice about how to deal with the fallout?
So, it's basically when we lose an hour, it's worse than when we gain an hour. Right. So, I've got builders next door. That's not me. Really That's not my stomach or anything. Yeah, basically, so losing an hour is harder for our body to deal with than gaining an hour. Right. I used to get really funny about the clocks changing and trying to be really organised and trying to, deal with it as best I could. The thing is, it is only an hour. And it is going to make you feel a bit crappy for a couple of days while you get used to it. However, it's not the end of the world. It's not great. It would be far better if we didn't have to do it. And I'm very happy to, put my hat in the ring on that one. But basically, the way that we can try to sort of negate it as much as possible is to start to shift ourselves so that we're more in line with the new timings. So sort of by about 30 minutes, if you can shift everything earlier over the next few days by sort of 15-ish minutes, then that's going to help you. But also just being aware that actually, even if you don't do anything, the wheels aren't going to fall off. You are still going to survive because we've done it before and we're going to do it again. Ideally, if we are going to shift timings, we want to shift our wake-up time rather than our bedtime. Unless you feel like you could go to bed 15 minutes earlier and actually fall asleep, then that's great. But I wouldn't force yourself to go to bed earlier because you're likely to just get frustrated and not be able to sleep. So actually, it's probably better to shift your your wake-up time so it's a little bit earlier. And then by Sunday, you're kind of fairly well ready for that change. The big thing that is completely in our control is daylight. So making sure that you're getting daylight, ideally outside, as close to waking up as possible for the first few days, sort of leading up to it and for the first few days afterwards, and timings of meals as well. So those are our time givers, our Zeitgeibers. So those are the things.
Say that again.
Zeitgeiber.
Time givers. Okay.
Yeah, wicked word. So trying to make sure that we are kind of eating. So if we're shifting our wake up time, we want to shift our meal times as well if possible. And just kind of not stressing about it too much, really, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that's just going to make it worse. And make sure that you change your clocks, because so many clocks change automatically, but try to make sure that you do actually change clocks that won't change automatically so that you're not late for stuff, because you could be an hour late for work on Monday if you're not careful.
Right. Brilliant. Good advice. And when it comes to kids, would you do the same thing, like adjust their time by 15 minutes?
Yes. Yeah. So definitely start with wake up time. I know you don't want to wake a sleeping baby, but if you can shift it by sort of 15 minutes, then, that's going to help them feel sleepier 15 minutes early and on whatever.
So back to building the studio in my loft. Another B&Q visit through the tradesman's entrance. Bought myself some materials and a really scary looking circular saw thing, which I've never had to use one of these before. And goodness me, I'm not that good at it yet. It's going to take a bit of practice. So building a studio in my loft is just a crazy idea, but I'm getting there. Thursday night is football training night, so we have to go to a plastic pitch, which happens to have a bar. So I take one twin, let him loose on the football field with his coach, and the other one sits in the bar with me while I try and get some work done. She's very good at reading. This is not actually a magazine about soup. It's called The Phoenix. It's a comic. It's hectic that night and I don't get to make dinner, so I decided this day I would eat dinner at the football venue, and they had very limited options there, not my chips. I ordered a burger. This is how in Nico people learn to eat burgers. They eat the meat, they eat the cheese, they don't eat that big bun, because the amount of glucose molecules those buns put in your body is ridiculous. You get a huge old glucose spike. So this is the way to eat a burger with a flat line afterwards. It's the end of term today. School ends really early and I've got a lot to fit in. So early morning meeting at the gym over the internet. But then I had to head into town, into Victoria, to meet he's a chauffeur who can't really talk about his work. He's one of our members and I'm planning a project with him. A guy called Dominic, absolutely lovely guy. He drives famous people around and he is planning to retire this year. And you'll see more of him sometime soon. But then I've got to rush back home from town, pick the kids up pack a lot of toys, and we are going on a mission. Turning the camera on myself for a whole week has been a revelation. It's not just the footage from this week, I've had to look at photos of myself from the recent past and from the distant past, and I'm not hugely happy with the way I look. I'm a huge supporter of changing your metabolic health for the sake of health, but I'm actually also a supporter of changing your lifestyle and your diet for aesthetic reasons. I think it's not the worst thing in the world to do. If you want to look better, feel more confident in your body, I think it's a decent thing to do, as long as you don't become obsessive over it. And I think I've changed. You know, it's not just age, it's habits, whatever. So once you notice these things, you know, I'm not hugely happy with it. I'm suddenly taking selfies with people. I'm terrible at taking selfies. But what's worse than taking a selfie is looking at it going, oh my days, look at the state of me. And I didn't have that feeling for a bit, but I've got it again now. So I guess that's the surprise outcome of week 1 for me. I need to make some changes for myself. And making changes for your health is what Nico's about. But really, the point is you do it for what really drives you. So here's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to use Nico like a member, because that makes sense, right? I'll show you how it works. I haven't really explained it much. But before we go any further into my series as it evolves, I think it's probably quite important that you know who you are actually dealing with. So I'm not an expert. The only qualification that I ever had was I got the National Licensee Certificate back in 1997. It's probably expired. And that would have allowed me to run a bar. So I knew how to deal with drunk people legally. And I've got a couple of food hygiene certificates in my time as well. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not qualified to give advice about these things, so I won't. However, my business is qualified. I've hired experts in to do these things so that we can not just give generic advice, but actually have experts looking after the thing that gives the feedback, which is evidence-based, realistic. I'm not an expert. That's not who you're going to be following in this journey. It's somebody who is... I've been studying this stuff intensively for years now. I've been, reading books, going to lectures, doing the kind of stuff you do when you're trying to educate yourself, knowing what to do, and the gap between knowing and actually getting it done. That's the gap that has left me where I am, which is me going, I'm not quite happy at the moment. I could do with exercising in a different way. I could do with eating in a different way. Eating feels unplanned and feels quite... hectic and stressful as well. So I think I'm going to go through this full-on process of change, which actually feels okay, because I'm okay with change. But I think the thing is, you can't keep changing. You can't keep dieting all the time. You have to, at some point, settle into who you are so that you can enjoy the other things and fully apply yourself to the other things in life that really matter. So it's going to be a slight period of transformation for me, but I don't want to overhaul my life here. That's not the point, because you know that when you try and do that, that doesn't last for very long. This is about sustainability. Looking at my dad and thinking about my fate, where I don't want to end up like him. Dementia, by the way, is very much caused for a lot of people by diet and lifestyle choices. My dad he never became overweight, but he certainly had a terrible diet all his life, and he's had to have a couple of operations related to that. It's the kind of thing that we help people with at Nico. We help them avoid these effects. That's what we're trying to educate them into, a better sustainable lifestyle for a healthier old age. So while I've got my dad on one side who I think, look, it's sad that's happened to him, and it's saddest for him. I don't want that fate, and I don't want that fate for my family. But I have a woman living next door to me who's an absolute inspiration. Her name's Anne. She's 90. She still drives her own car. She doesn't let me help her with mowing her lawn because she says it's part of how she stays active and healthy. And I think that is the role model I have now, and it's a case of looking up that way, because just because I have my dad's genes, I don't necessarily have to activate them all. I don't necessarily have to have that same fate. So if I'm going to live to 90 plus, well, I'd like to live like my next door neighbor, who you will meet in a forthcoming episode. I always hear my kids say this when they're playing: like and subscribe. Subscribe to this channel if you want to follow me along. Next week I'll be heading down to Cornwall for an Easter break, but also taking work with me. In fact, I'll be camping out at Andrew, my co-founder's house. That's going to be exciting. Join me on the journey. Look after yourself. I'll see you soon.